Oh, yeah, I just hit record.
No,
we can cut this first part out too if we have to, but
okay.
yeah, I was out shoveling snow for the last 8 hours. So
I saw that. You guys are out there grinding today.
Yeah, not ideal, but luckily I'm not in the rotation for BP throwing tomorrow, so I get an extra day of rest.
That's nice.
I know I'm going to be feeling it, man.
How long were you out there?
Oh, since 9:30 until
the whole thing.
Well, until 4:45, I think. It's crazy, man.
How's the field look for tomorrow? It'll be playable. It'll be ready.
Yeah, it's going to be the outfield's going to be a little sloppy, but we had the field tarp on there in the infield, so should be okay. I don't know. We'll find out. Nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are playing St. Cloud tomorrow?
Yeah. And what's his name? David Kroger, I believe, is the new head coach there. Feel like my brother and I played against him growing up. That
really?
Last name is familiar, but yeah, no. So they're a good team. I know they went to the World Series last year, so should be a good challenge for us.
We're supposed to play them next weekend.
Yeah, I saw that because we were looking ahead of like, okay, where could we squeeze these guys in next week? Because they're going down to Indian Hills, and then like, well, they're not going to want to play 12 games in 6 days. So, but glad that's over with. Just in time for it to snow again on Thursday. We're supposed to get like 6-8 inches again. So
no way.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. Yeah.
Yikes.
But well, it's good we could finally do this. I haven't done one of these since January. And then of course, the moment I reach out to you about doing one, I get stuck out shoveling snow all day.
Yeah.
Isn't that the way it works?
That's Midwest baseball right there.
Exactly. Yeah, I shared the notes with you, but we can just chop it up, get into it, and we'll kind of start with, I don't know if I got this right. So I know you played at Itasca in Grand Rapids, right? And then played at University of Minnesota Duluth.
Yep.
And then I believe after your playing career, this is 1 year at Luther College.
Yep.
2 years at Southwest Minnesota State.
Yep.
Another 1 year or 2 years at Luther?
1 year at Luther.
And then Morehead State.
Yep.
For 1 year?
1 year.
And then back to Luther.
With basically. Like we went to South Carolina for a month and then came home.
Okay. That's right. Yep. Okay. And then IMG Academy.
Yep.
And now Dakota County.
That's right.
Okay.
There's a lot of travel in there.
Yeah, no kidding. Where to begin, I guess, is the question. I'll just kind of let you take us through that whole thing. What prompted the moves? Just kind of walk us through that whole process.
Yeah, obviously playing the 2 years, Itasca, it's a 2-year program, and then, got a chance to go to University of Minnesota Duluth and finish my playing career. And just at Luther, when I took that first job, I kind of reached out to a couple people. I was like, hey, I really want to get into college coaching. Like, where can I start? How do I get my foot in the door? I kind of thought the whole thing was if you were a pro ball guy or if you were just a stud athlete, that's how you got it. And I learned that wasn't always it. And so luckily my head baseball coach at Itasca, Justin Lampa, who's still there now, is in Grand Rapids and knew Coach Nickel and knew Brian. And so Brian had just gotten the head job at Luther and was looking for a pitching guy. And I was just trying to get in. So the position was like $2,500 for the year and some free housing. And I jumped all over it. I was like, this is the break I needed. Like, I'll go and do it. I'll figure it out. And basically when I got hired, it was kind of, if you do well enough, we'll work hard and see if we can get you a graduate assistant job to continue the coaching thing. Because for me, I was like, you obviously can't make a living on $2,500. So I was looking for next. the next thing. But luckily, Brian gave me an opportunity to recruit. I got to work with, you and some good athletes and just kids that like wanted to work, and just like, okay, like I got to fail a little bit. I got to do a lot of stuff that, I'm not sure a lot of head coaches would have been able to, but luckily Brian's first year, like we were all figuring it out together. And so I was lucky that he let me kind of do whatever I wanted and try and learn. And I'm sure I did a lot of dumb stuff that first year that like, what was I thinking? But that's kind of part of it, as weird as it sounds, like you got to fail a bunch to then start to figure out. I'm still doing it now. And there's no way I have a perfect system. But, I take little things everywhere I've been and try and make it a little bit better. So after that first year, I must have done something okay and interviewed and got the job at Southwest and worked for Coach Blanchard, who's still there. And it was a great experience. We see the game very differently, I thought, early on in my career. Being a young coach, I thought I knew a lot. I thought I knew how this should be done. I was a go, go, go type guy. And I think we butted heads a little bit. And I think now looking back, like I understand it. Like, it's kind of one of those things, like you need a couple of years away to kind of, okay, that's why. Or the relationships, a lot of that stuff was big. Doing a lot of, like we worked football games, basketball games, doing anything we could to help the athletic department. And at a small college, that's what you have to do. And so I thought the biggest thing I learned there was outside of the game, almost. Like, we learned a lot about baseball, X's and O's, and he's one of the smartest baseball people I still, to this day, talk to. And it's one of those things that, I'll probably never catch up to that. But the stuff outside of it, what he taught me, I still, preach that every day. It's just like the team, ETR, earn the right. One of the things I use with our guys now, it's not the best 9 always, it's the right 9 that are going to get in the lineup. And
bingo. I
was like, man, that, I didn't really get that early on. I was like, why? Best 9 got to play. How are we supposed to score runs? This, and, now it's, I'm going to go down. If we're going to lose games, I want to go down with the guys that are doing what we ask, are working hard. And, and the last at bat of the game is the guy at the plate that we all trust is going to do the work because he's been there doing it. Or is it the guy everyone's like, man, he's a good player, but he's kind of an asshole, That's not the guy we want to go down with. So, those are some principles I've taken from him and still use. But after that 2-year program, right, you got to look for another job, and must have done something right where I got a chance to go back to Luther and took over as their full-time pitching coach and recruiting coordinator. So then, that first year or that second time back at Luther was cool because, you got to be around a lot of guys that we recruited that first year with Coach Ishii and Coach Nickel. And it was just cool to kind of be around, you guys and just start to work with what we thought could happen a couple years prior. Right. So now you got to kind of reap those benefits a little bit. You got to, see the talent that was going to be there and knew that we were off to the right start. We just needed these guys to get into place. That first recruiting class it's always the most important, in my opinion. Because if you don't start off on the right foot, it's really hard to then get back on that track. You got to find the right kids right away that, they don't see the record. They see the vision of what you're trying to do. And once they buy in and they see it, it's like, okay, now we've got it. And so it was really cool to go back. And we were obviously super successful. A couple of national pitchers of the week, a couple of no-hitters. You're in that group. What do we have? An All-American in that group?
Yeah.
It was
pitcher of the year too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a special group. Like it was a really fun. It was a fun group to be a part of, and I think that's what made the decision to leave really, really hard.
Right.
I had some opportunities earlier in the summer, and I turned them down because I was like, you know what? I really believe in what we're doing here, and we got all you guys coming back. Like our best teams are coming, and you guys had just come off of going to the national tournament. So I was like, okay, let's make a run. Like let's create kind of what they're doing now. It is. Yeah. Let's turn that thing into it's rolling. And it's hard work, and So, it got later in the summer and it was like August, and, I saw Morehead State was looking for an assistant, and, a coach that I got to know on the recruiting trail, PJ McEntee, was at Mankato State as an assistant.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. He kind of, I sent it to him and I was like, what do you think? Because a couple years prior, he was the volunteer assistant at Morehead State. And so weird thing is, he goes, I think you'd be great for that position. So I emailed my stuff in, he contacted them, and there was one interview, and then I had to decide, was that going to be the route? And I think for me, it took a minute because, obviously your group was still there, and we knew we were going to be really successful. And I think just part of me would have regretted it if I didn't go. I think, we all have this idea of what Division I baseball is, right? Like, you see it on TV, you just try and figure out what is it all about. And so I was like, I got to go. I got to see it. I got to go try it. And I'm glad I did. Honestly, for my coaching career as a volunteer assistant, back to making no money in a Morehead, Kentucky, which isn't the most beautiful place in the world. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not like,
right.
You're in the Daniel Boone Forest, but it's not like you got a ton of stuff around you. But it was good. I mean, we won 40 games with a team for the first time in school history, with a team that, took Clemson to the 11th the year prior in the tournament. And I was like, man, this is a pretty cool opportunity. If I'm going to make a jump, I want to go somewhere where they believe we're going to win, we're going to be successful. And so that was ultimately what it was about. Like, I felt that was the best chance to kind of get out of the Midwest. Coach Nickel and Coach Blanchard are all on the same tree that comes under Blanche. And those are all really good baseball people. And those are guys that I still trust with everything that I ask questions for. And I kind of wanted to see what other baseball was like, like just what baseball in the South. I mean, Kentucky's kind of on that borderline of what's South and what's not. But, I went and I got to see and work with four guys like Mike McGuire, who's the head coach, Adam Brown, who's the pitching guy, and Kane Sweeney, who's the hitting guy. All four of us worked on the field every day. We did all of the grunt work. That was probably what I needed most. I think I was starting to get comfortable and thinking like, I'm starting to become really good at this. I thought, and I didn't need to do the field work, or I didn't, we're above that now. It's Division I. And to sit there and look at those guys on the field with me with no questions asked really was eye-opening. Like, these guys are really good at their profession, and they're right next to me picking weeds in the infield or cutting the grass. Like, it wasn't just you're the volunteer, you do it. Like, and they totally could have, and I would have done it, but it was pretty cool. So I hold myself to that standard now. I'm just, there's no job too big for the guy that's in the big chair. Like, I think that's where respect is built. And so that was really cool. And those are still guys I'm super close with, and it's fun to build those relationships with those guys.
I think that's as someone who hasn't yet left the Midwest, I think that's something that you owe to yourself. The more that I learn, the more that I'm around as a full-time guy now, it's just like, I'm not in any hurry to get out of here by any means, but at the same time, like, I know in the future there's going to be one of those, there's a fork in the road. Which way am I going to go? And I think I try not to think about it too much, because I'm right here, right now. This is where I am. But I do understand, and I think if it's really something worth doing, you're gonna have to take a chance at some point. And yeah, I can't imagine that was an easy decision, but at the same time, obviously it worked out for you. But when you know that the guys that you were working with at Luther were going to be around, like, you knew your impact was going to last there. So I think, that's all I have on that. But you understand what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, I think if it makes you nervous, it's probably worth it. If you're super comfortable, then that's when things, like, for me, I didn't want to get comfortable. Like, I was starting to get really nervous that might be a bad thing. but yeah, like you're right. I mean, growing up in a state where it's, we just got 3 inches of snow, you just said like you might get 8 inches on Thursday. I mean, that's where the difference happens. Like coaching at Moorhead, like we had a small indoor that's like tennis courts that they cut the tennis team, but they had some nets in there we could do some stuff in. And I had to legitimately teach our guys how to throw long toss into a net because some of them had never thrown into a net in their entire lives. And I was like, this is amazing to me, but here we go. Like, this is what the idea is. And to this day, it's like, still blows my mind that we had to kind of discuss throwing into a net with a group of guys that had no idea. But yeah, I think, if that opportunity ever comes up, or it's got to be the right situation, because there are some spots that have bad, like you legitimately are on your own as a volunteer, and it's only camp money coming in. Luckily, I was able to get a small stipend with some camp stuff just to make ends meet. It's hard. I mean, and that's what stinks about our game is I don't think we have enough paid or being paid to what maybe the work we put in, and we may never, but just the scholarship sports and the revenues, and I understand all that stuff, but with roster sizes and what you need in baseball, I think we should start to relook at what where the money is with some of that stuff. But that's just me. I'm just a small guy over here that will be making those decisions. So
and that's something you could go on for a while about. So we'll save that for another time. But no, I hear you loud and clear.
But yeah, I mean, back just kind of back to that Moorhead. We finished game shy of going to the NCAA tournament with a really good team. Like I said, we 40 wins for the first time in school history. And, I think our head coach was probably ready to go. That was year 7 at Moorhead. And I think, as a group, for him especially, is like, I think we took it really far, to just what we had in that league, our stadium, and just, we didn't have a lot of the nice things. I should put it that way. And, I think it was time. I think they were ready to move. And so they got an opportunity to go to the University of South Carolina upstate. Which is another mid-major Division I that they're still at and doing a great job. I mean, now they've got really nice facilities. You're in the South, and it's just a little bit better, I think. It's kind of one of those things, and they have it rolling. And so for me, I was down there for about a month and had to make that decision of, my girlfriend at the time, wife now, who's the head strength coach at Luther, and I couldn't ask her to leave, a really good paying job to go watch me make peanuts down in South Carolina. So that was a super hard decision. I mean, it was one of those things like, man, I left for something, and then, you just didn't feel like you were completely done with it. And I think, that's always kind of one of those things you always wonder, what if, but at the same time, like, I have a wife now. We have a great home here in Minneapolis. We have a baby, coming in June. Like, there's a lot of great things that came from that. And, but you always wonder, I think you always have that, you wonder, what could be the situation. But that year back at Luther was tough. I mean, working basically as a volunteer, small part-time, trying to help out with whatever I could with Coach Nickel again. And because Tyler Vaughn was the pitching guy, and I obviously wanted to let him do his thing. I mean, he earned that position. I wasn't going to go in there and try and, I've done this before, like I got it, this is his opportunity. So I got a chance to learn from him where, I didn't deal with a lot of technology stuff. So he was one of the first guys I'd been around that really kind of had an idea of what a lot of it was. We had Rapsodo at Moorhead, and I got to learn that stuff, but he's pretty good at that stuff. And I really appreciated that time with Tyler, and we ended up living together for that year. It was kind of cool, like just, create a good bond. And then we had to work at TG just to make ends meet. So that I knew baseball coaching is what I wanted to do, because for the first time in my life, I was waking up doing a job that was actually a job to me, and I hated it. Now I really enjoy their beer, like love their beer, but I hated making it. Like it's just one of those things that doesn't get me up. Like I'm not ready for this. So luckily, that as the opportunities come, I mean, my wife's boss, got a job at IMG and wanted to hire her as to run the whole soccer program down there. And for her, that's an unbelievable opportunity. And so that was an immediate yes for us. And luckily for me, baseball was looking to hire. There's like 30 coaches down there, and they happened to have one open, and applied and interviewed and luckily got the job. I was ready. I was applying all over down there just to find something to stay within the game. Because for an opportunity for her, we got to go, and that was another chance for us to live on our own. We just got married, so we were going to go, live down there, what we thought would be 5 years, and then maybe start to reassess what it would look like, starting a family and coming back to the Midwest. But that actually, it happened sooner than we had originally thought. So, that back, she's now at St. Thomas as, head assistant strength coach there with men's and women's basketball and volleyball, women's soccer, and track. And then luckily Dakota County was looking for a head coach and applied, and it was a crazy process, but it's a great place, and it's a really good place for me to start as a head coach. I'm really lucky with the group of people I'm around every day. Especially the guys, it's one of those things that they could have left. A lot of them stuck it out. Some people left, and I'll be forever grateful for those guys that are still there or are here now. That first year is just trying to keep your head above water. I'm still doing it. Even today, I had a million things going on. Am I going to be ready for our first game Friday? Do I have charts? Do I have lineup cards? Do I have just things you don't think about because you're so worried about getting the guys ready that now it's the back end stuff that I'm now just starting to work. So it's been a crazy path. But it's been awesome. I wouldn't change it. It's kind of led me here, and who knows what the next 20 years hold. It's kind of one of those that's why every day is so fun to wake up and go to work.
And everything just fell into place. Like you mentioned, you said the word luck or lucky probably 15 times there. And I was like, that's all that stuff happening in the same. The other coach Barthel gets a job down at IMG, and it's like, oh yeah, well, they're actually looking for a baseball coach. Weird. But I've always been a big believer in, that's just kind of how, I don't know, that's just kind of how things work. If it's meant to be that way, it sounds corny now that I think about it, but obviously there was something that you both were doing right there that kind of let those things come together. So very cool.
I want to think so. You kind of create your own luck, right? Just based on the work you've put in, and I want to say that's why. If DCTC wouldn't have been open, we were still ready to come back. And again, I'd have to look for another job to hopefully find something in baseball. That was the goal. But I was getting ready to, again, find another job just to be back home. It was kind of cool chance to come back to Minnesota.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I wrote a couple things down there. You mentioned this somewhere towards the beginning. You mentioned having the right nine, not the best nine.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, what does the right guy do?
The right guy, I think, is it's funny because when we're younger, I think we all, we joke with each other about oh, you're a teacher's pet. And now as a coach, those are the guys we want. We want the coach's pet. You want the guy that's doing everything you ask. Just we'll do whatever, coach. I trust you. We've built obviously you have to build a relationship with each guy to then open that door to then they'll give you everything they have. And the right nine to me is you can look at every guy in that dugout and be like, this guy's earned that spot. If you can come to me and tell me why maybe you're better for that position than that guy, can you do that with him sitting in the room next to you? That's one of those things that, I think it's easy to say oh, I should be playing over so-and-so. I'm hitting better than him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yes, you might be, but can you get the bunt down if we need you to in a really big situation? Are you going to be able to move the runner when we need you to with, You know, maybe it's late in the game and we're at second base and we just need a ground ball to the right side. Or are you going to be taking big hacks to try and hit that 2-run homer, which, you know, we'll love you if you hit the 2-run homer, but I'll probably just give you as big a hug if you just move the guy to third base to let your teammate then score the run. You know, those little things, it's funny because I'm talking about it and I think back to my time at Southwest, and those were the things that really kind of like I didn't get. I was like, why? I mean, why do we have to move him? Like, he's already in scoring position. Hit a double off the wall, we're good. Like, it's easy to say that. But there's a lot, like, the pitcher's not going to just let you move the guy. He's not going to just let you do things. There's a lot that goes into it. So
yeah, I think you nailed it, man. And for me, it's it's like who's gonna notice that there's a baseball sitting out after practice? You know, who's gonna walk around outside the fence to make sure that we got everything that we need? You know, like, take care of this stuff outside of, you know, the X's and O's, I think is what defines the right guy for me. And like you said, the biggest factor is trust, always will be. And it's crazy how that seems to be the biggest thing, but yet it's one of the most rare things too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you have somebody who's put together the X's and O's part with, you know, the stuff outside of that, I mean, that's when you got something special. And I think as a first-year head coach, I imagine that's a challenge for you to – you know, you're kind of getting your feet wet. You know what you're doing, but you're kind of getting your feet wet, new place, new people. I mean, can you kind of just walk me through that? What's that like? You know, trying to figure out, trying to get your system in place, but you understand what I'm saying there?
No, for sure. It's interesting because, like, so the fall, before I get into it, like, I started doing the whole thing myself. When I took the job, I didn't hire any assistants until November. We don't have a ton of money to give out to our assistants, so it's part-time positions. So you have to find a couple of unique individuals who have good paying full-time jobs, but yet are willing to spend some time with you and your team to help towards a common goal. So, like, you got to get really lucky, and I did. You know, Garrett Boyum and Chase Henches are my two assistants, and they're awesome. You know, it's super great to have those two there every day now. But early on, like, trying to do everything yourself was really hard. I mean, I was every day out on the field, like, you got the pitchers doing something. I got to work with the infielders, the outfielders. I'm trying to keep going. Got catchers looking for work. Like, everyone's looking at you for that next thing. So you had to be pretty organized to make sure we're kind of moving in the right direction. And I think I got lucky in the fact of we only have 19 guys on our roster right now. So that's a really terrifying thing as a baseball coach because you need 9 guys to play. So if you're an injury away, bad grades away from having, you know, almost not enough to play a full season. And so that's where this year will be really interesting. You know, my ideal number for guys is anywhere in the 30, 35, 40 range was going to be the ideal number for me. And we got a lot of work to do to get to that number. So, you know, it's just going to be really interesting with a small group that we really us 19, it's as true as it's ever been that we're going to need every single one of those guys to get to where we want to go. And so I think it makes maybe delivering a message a little bit easier because it's legitimately just us.
Yeah.
We're not 3 deep everywhere. We have 6 two-ways. So we got 6 pitchers that also play a position. I mean, it's super unique. And I think that's where a lot of the time I spend is like figuring out like, okay, this guy comes into pitch. Who can I put there? So then I got to take this guy and put him here. And then, like, it's a lot.
And then you start playing 6 to 8 games in a week. Like,
I mean, you said it.
You got to figure it out, though.
We all know one of those guys in your 6 games isn't probably getting out of the second inning. So then, where do we go? And yeah, I'm nervous, but I'm super excited because these guys have worked their butts off. So, I mean, Friday can't get here soon enough. But, you know, I just hope for good health in these guys and just they're doing everything we asked. and that's all you can
Yeah.
ask for.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. You know, I really like our group. You know, I just, you know, I think we all wish we had maybe 10 just guys that we could feel comfortable with just off the bench. So it'd be cool. Like I've never been a part of a team this small, and you know, I'm super interested to see how this goes for us all.
Good. Yeah. And I think that kind of ties in, you know, like when you're at Morehead State, you were talking about how you don't really have all the nice stuff. Like just the same as you might be shorthanded at times, but like you got to figure it out. Right. And I think when you piece it all together and maybe things start going well for you and you start cooking a little bit, it's that much more special. You know what I mean? Like versus this D1 JUCO out there who's got 70 guys and a 80-yard indoor facility, you know.
Yep.
Like, hey man, we can do the same stuff as you with less. I think that's way cooler. So,
yep.
And I think that was certainly Nickel had a part in that with, you know, the way he kind of built that system and that culture down there. Just do more with less. That's kind of the 100%. Name of the game. So I thought that was cool how that tied in.
One of my favorite quotes he told me, and I still use this, is like, the kid with the nicest bat isn't always the best player. And I was like, hey, it's really well said, because it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, little grinders, some blue collar guys. That's what we are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And that's actually a good. So the other thing you said, this is way back at the beginning again. You talked about the vision for, now I can't remember what part it was, but you mentioned the vision and getting guys to, I believe this was maybe your first, you were talking about your first recruiting class at Luther.
Yeah.
And so when you came back that second time, you know, these were the guys who, they didn't look at the record in previous years. They just wanted to, you know, they believed in what you had presented to them essentially. So I guess the question is, how do you get people to believe in that vision? Like what does that look like?
I think if you believe it, you know, I think you can portray that message. You know, I think it's easy to see, like, if you get an uncomfortable feeling with somebody, you probably know, like, all right, there's something that maybe they're hiding. And I just tell people, like, listen, this is what we have. I want you on, like, my biggest thing here at DCTC is you got to come see the campus, because our baseball facilities are top notch. I mean, we have a beautiful stadium and an indoor that has turf, and it's 3 batting cages long. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, it's a really nice setup for junior college that I think a lot of 4 years in this state would really like. And so for me, it's just showing guys, like, we can get you better in 2 years. It's betting on yourself for 2 more years to see how good we can get. Because the schools that want you right now are the schools that are going to want you again in 2 more years, maybe worse, or maybe they want you more, because now you've just shown for 2 years you can play. You know, it's really hard. I mean, you know how it is. Like, it's really hard to recruit guys and it's like, all right, I think this guy's going to fit into this and this. And then if it doesn't happen, it's like, all right, now where do we go? And it's like, well, You go to the junior college route to go grab that guy that can do it. And so that's the vision for me. You know, we don't have a conference, so we can kind of play whoever we want. And once we get into the tournament, we have some really good opportunities to make a run at it. You know, baseball is a crazy game where, you know, you get a hot pitcher, bad bounce, and all of a sudden you look up and you might be leading when you probably have no business being in the game right now. And, you know, we're not fully funded. You know, we don't, like, the Iowa JUCOs are huge.
Yes.
We recruit very heavily against those teams. And, you know, we're not going to get every guy because, you know, we can't offer, you know, full scholarships or on-campus housing. So for me, it's, you know, you pay a little bit in. So you get a little bit of money from us possibly, but you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your academics. You're investing in your living. So, like, you have to stay the course, because if you don't, you're now wasting your own money. And that hurts a little bit deeper than wasting somebody else's money. So once you buy into that vision, it's like, okay, you stay on it. And it's where we go. And the other part of it, you know, at Morehead, we recruited a lot of junior college athletes. And, we really never knew what we were getting from junior college guys, because there's something lacking, whether it's academics, maybe not always super smart on the baseball field, injuries, there's something there. And for me, I want to make sure that all of those areas are covered. So then guys in four-year schools keep coming back to us. If we can hammer out the stuff that is on the outside part of baseball, and you can handle yourself as an adult, it's going to make baseball and that coaching staff love you even more, because nobody wants to deal with a headache that can't handle his business off the field, right? It goes back to that right nine, like you said, picking up baseballs, all that stuff. I mean, coaches, we don't forget that stuff. We see you picking up baseballs, trash, whatever it is. We don't forget that. We also don't forget when you throw your helmet and you act like a baby if something bad happens. So, there's just a lot of that goes into building or trying to build a program. I think I'm doing it the right way. I'm sure I'm failing in some areas, and that's all you can do is look back and be like, all right, where can I get better? And just what I try and do, each day when I look in the mirror, it's like, all right, can I be better today? Where I need to be better in certain areas today than I was yesterday, because these guys are counting on me. Just like I'm counting on them to play well when the lights come on, they're counting on me to put them in the right positions to then get what they want out of coming to our school. They're coming to us for something. So I need to make this about them. This isn't about me. I'm trying to just pour in as much info as I can into you guys. And then hopefully we've given you enough to then make your next couple of years successful, and then from there on out.
Yeah. I think, you nailed it. I mean, there are times where I personally struggle with, are we doing things how we're supposed to be doing them? Or are we, I guess we'll find out. I mean, it's like, I think being honest with yourself about not having everything figured out is step number one. Step number two is just okay, here's what I believe is going to help us and help you individually. Let's just roll with it. Let's all just say, yep, okay, this is it. We're going to do it. And, even if it's not the best plan or the best system, I think if you get the group to buy into it, it's going to be more beneficial than the perfect plan that not everybody believes in, and that I just keep coming back to that. I think for me, that's the biggest thing for me, is just hey, this is what we're doing. I just need us all to believe in it, and it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that, and I'm sure I'll learn some things and I'll change some things, but for right now, what we're doing, if you just believe in it, man, and just go all in, I think it's foolproof. Works every time. So so that's kind of where
every
we're at.
team is different. Every team is different. This team that I'm coaching now, I'm sure is going to be much different than next year's team. We might have to play a different style of baseball than maybe we want to, and it might be 4 or 5 years until we get to that style. And I think that was something I took from Brian. He wants to run the bases constantly, and that first year we really couldn't, because we didn't have the team built to do that.
Right
now, you want to go look at their stats. Every single one of the guys 1 through 9 can run, and it's
a nightmare. If you're the other team, it's a nightmare.
So it took 8 years to get to a lineup where they look at that thing. So that's also part of the perspective. Also, you don't want to always say well, in a couple of years we'll be better. Well, no, because you have to work up to that, but you still have to keep that vision alive of where, what do we need? What pieces do we have to get to keep building towards a common goal? And the junior college thing is super interesting, right? Because you don't have 4-year guys. It's 2 years, and every year you're recruiting new guys. So that turnover can happen fast. The Iowa JUCOs, there's every year, probably 5 to 8 years, there's a new one that pops up as the hot one to go to right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully at some point there's a lot of good players in our state that we can become that one. That's if I'm trying to create a vision, that's my vision. It's going to take a lot of work, because we're always going to be maybe a little bit shorthanded when it comes to money and some other things. But we're 20 minutes from the Twin Cities. It's tough to beat.
Sweet.
We got 3 kids from Brookings on our team right now, South Dakota, and I bring this up in recruiting all the time. They had never been to an NBA basketball game, and we're able to go the other night because we're 20 minutes away. Like, there's just so much that is outside of baseball that people forget about, because it's not like baseball is super important. I love the game, but there's life outside of it it's about experiencing, create those experiences with your teammates. And it's just a cool spot.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I'm 100% on board with that. It's just funny that we literally have the opposite thing going on here. I don't know if you've ever been to Creston. It is only an hour. It's only an hour from Des Moines. So,
okay.
But at the same time, it's like, it's a town of 8,000 people. It's like this old railroad town. Like, we got a McDonald's and a Taco John's and some pretty good local restaurants. But like, I mean, there's not even a movie theater here. Like, there's no bowling alley there. I mean, so on the other side of that coin, it's just like, hey, it's school and baseball, man. Like, if you really want to get better at baseball, we can do that.
Yep. You don't need the other stuff.
Parties, good looking girls, forget all that. Like, just so it's
you
interesting.
Get that after your hard work.
Yes, correct. Well, yeah, we can keep moving on here. That's really good stuff, but I've taken enough of your time, so we'll move on with the agenda here. I did want to ask you briefly about, like, this is going to be a lot in one question, so bear with me. But obviously, when we first met, I think we maybe had the plyo care balls. I think we had like the green ones. But I mean, that was pretty much it, right? Like that was the extent of our so
I didn't know what J-bands were. I bought J-bands because I saw an article on the internet, and I was like, hey, this would be a good idea, I think. And then we bought them.
Smart. Genius.
That was seriously, I know, like, even Brian was the one that was helping me figure out what things to buy, because I'll be honest, we didn't have any of it in college. Didn't do one band, didn't throw one heavy ball, nothing. Thought that was like the worst thing you could do. And now it's like
so that's the question is you've been a lot of different places, a lot of different people, different cultures, different levels of competition. How has your view on all that changed, or has it just been like a constant learning process? I mean, what's that like?
I mean, it's constant learning. I mean, I'm still nowhere near where I want to be when it comes to technology. And you see it all the time, and I still feel like I'm way behind a lot of people where, I just don't use it every day because of what we have right now. But it's one of those things that I've been able to hang my hat on enough, knowing like, okay, I think I've done enough decent things with pitchers to put them in good positions to have success. And so if I can add little things to just make that stuff better, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I think I've tried to do. And hopefully, I'm seeing some good things out of our guys now. Hopefully, the velo jumps start to come, right? That's the sexy thing right now is be velo or I'm not a good pitcher. And it's like, okay, well, that's not true.
Relax.
But yeah, it is interesting. Like, got a chance to use a Rapsoda at Morehead State. That was really cool. Dabbled in it a little bit, probably not as much as I should have right away. We got one when I was the second time back at Luther. Again, that's where I learned a lot from Tyler, and just trying to figure out what is spin rate, what is vertical, angles, and all these things mean, the clock, what 12, like, I don't know, like all these things that I didn't really get. So I'm glad I had a little idea, because going to IMG, you had everything, like almost too much. Like, there's just so like, we would have our coaches meetings and be like, we don't know what some of this data means, because we just have so much of it that we don't know how to like separate it. Like, how do you, and it's like, so then we started to beat our heads against, like, okay, how do we simplify it, or what can we use more of? So it was cool to be able to, obviously Rapsodos, we had K vests, we had core velocity belts, we had I mean, all the plyo balls you wanted. You had big leaguers and managers that were there on a daily basis that you could talk baseball with and figure out why they're doing things. And I mean, video on every stadium or every field. So then you get to watch video with your guys, and like it's pretty cool. You know, like just never having that opportunity to do that stuff. It was really cool to have that for a year. And I think that was part of wanting to be there for like 5 years. It's like really diving in, really just being somewhere for a while and just learning. Because every day you would sit in an office with 8 to 12 guys, and I look around the room, and I'm the small college guy in the room, and I'm looking around at guys that, 13-year minor league careers, Friday night guys in the ACC that played, 7 years in minor league baseball, some pro guys. Like you're just around so many baseball guys that it's hard not to learn anything. You're constantly just like sitting back and listening. And I'll throw my 2 cents in there once in a while, talking about playing up in the cold in northern Minnesota, but they just whatever. But no, it was cool. I mean, those are opportunities I cherish, because that gave me a chance to work with that stuff. And here, one of my assistants, Garrett, he has his own flight scope, so we set that up every day, every week for live ABs. He'll do it with the hitters almost every day, and he'll put a projector up on the screen, and it just gives us a chance to see where the ball might go when you're in the cages. And that at least is something, because it's keeps the guys hitting. It's just fun. Like as good as the information is, I think a lot of it is like keeps them around, keeps them doing something to just keep pushing themselves towards something. So I've got some ideas for the next couple of years on where I want to put some money and do some things technology-wise, and hopefully we can get there, because we do have a great setup to house it. But then again, if we can't, we'll be smart with what we have, and we'll see. Hopefully we're developing our guys like I plan to, and that stuff will come.
Yeah. I agree with you there. That's the most important thing, right? Is returning the investment that those guys make in your program. So yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about how you've kind of been on both sides of, we have pretty much everything that we would ever need and more, and then we have not so much, got enough, but not a lot. So is it just kind of like finding a balance between, and kind of relate this to the technology stuff and new school thinking, but like, how do you balance, I guess a more old school approach? I don't want to call it old school because it's not really, but you know what I mean? It's if you're not technology based, like how do you balance the two? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think it's a great question. I think it's something that I still am trying to find my way through it. I think what is really nice, especially in our state right now in Minnesota, like we have a lot of really, really good club coaches right now that I think really are investing in their players. And I think early in my career, there was a separation. There was I don't want you to go and work with those club people because either maybe guys were threatened, or I'm not really sure why. But I think that has changed. I think a lot of our guys are seeing the value in their club coaches, and there's a lot of guys that have a ton of experience and have worked in professional baseball or worked in college, and they've just gotten out for whatever reason it is. And now, to me, I've always looked at it as it's almost it's a good thing, I think, for me at least, where we don't have the technology, but all of our guys have come from some sort of a club, and they can go back to that club and get numbers if they need to over the winter or the summer. And we can come up with collaborative approaches to get what we need. Because in my opinion, I don't think you need a Rapsodo every time you throw a bullpen or a live session. At some point, the goal is to get the other guy out. So I don't know. I think I kind of try and take at least right now, I try and take the approach of, we're the game over here. You are doing the technology and maybe implementing, trying to get a better spin or try to improve your slider or whatever it is. and get your numbers to know if it's working with your club coaches. And then you come and bring it here. Obviously, we work on a lot of stuff throughout the week and try and get better on pitches and location and all this stuff. But if I don't have it, I mean, those guys trust those guys. So why would I not trust our guys? And I've started to meet a lot of these other club coaches because we'll recruit their guys. So if we can have a great relationship, it's only going to help baseball and help our state and hopefully help us in recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that, we occasionally get a guy from up in that area who has come from one of those academies or clubs or whatever. And it's tough because, like, I have no problem if you want to take whatever you learned there and use it here. Like, I'm still gonna try to give you my point of view, my perspective on everything. But, like, I'm not gonna stand in your way if you think this is what's best for you and that's really what you believe in. Like, like I said, I'll pitch in when I feel like it's necessary, but I'm a firm believer in doing what you really truly believe in. So it was tough to kind of grasp at first, but, like, I mean, I'm going to set my ego aside every time. Like, I don't care who you feel like is making you better. My job is to, one, help you get better individually, but ultimately build this program and kind of enhance the reputation, so to speak. So I'm not going to stand in anybody's way. I'm all for that. I think it's really great that you said that too. That's awesome.
I think one thing that's kind of helped me is, I'll tell guys, because I'm like you, I'm going to give you what I believe, and this is kind of the structure of what we're doing, and, like, I want you to try it, right? Even if it feels weird, it doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, we're so accustomed to not wanting to leave our comfort zone so much that once you found something you like, it's almost like a foreign language to try something else. Or you'll try it, but, like, you're not giving it your full effort because you want for some reason to say, my way's better. And so if you can just pull that, like, the best people always want to be coached, right? You'll see every elite athlete, will say, like, I love being coached. And it's like, when we can get to that mindset of just, small things here and there is really good. Like, so John Russell was our field manager at IMG. Okay. John was a bench coach for the Orioles for like 8 years with Buck Showalter, was the manager for the Pirates for 3. Caught a Nolan Ryan no-hitter. Like, the guy's been in the game for a very, very long time. And, he'll always say, like, don't overcoach them early. He's like, once they ask you for help, you've got them. You can help them with what maybe they feel is going really well. And in the back of your head, it's going to fail at some point, and you're going to come call, like, there's, I think, a lot of young coaches, and that was me. Like, no, this is the one way. Here we go. It's a one-way street. That's it. And now it's like, once they start to fail a little bit and see, like, okay, I need some help, boom, you got them. You just, every once in a while, you give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like, hey, maybe try this, or that looks pretty good. Maybe try this just to see. Yeah. And then once games start to happen, they start to fail on some things, and then you got them a little bit. Then you're like, okay, now we're going to scrap it. Here we go. Yeah. And so those are just little things where, just try it and legitimately try it.
Yeah.
Only you are going to be the one that knows if you're doing it or not.
Right. It sounds so simple. But I mean, that was another thing that was really challenging. It's like, coming in, obviously these guys had a different pitching coach last year. The year before that, those guys had a different pitching coach. So, like, it's just been constant. So I think back to the coaches that I had over the years, like yourself, Coach Ishii, Coach Nickel, is just like some consistency, you know what I mean? And I think that's just one of the, if not the biggest thing for me, is, consistently bring some kind of energy to practice, to the field, or to the weight room, or, like, I'm going to ask you how your day's going, or, like, how's class going, just a little bit of consistency. And I just am a big believer in that, I guess. But that's the biggest thing is it's really tough when you have, well, somebody else told me differently last year. Somebody else told me differently 4 months ago. Like, well,
yep.
Sorry, man. I mean, we're going to do this. We're going to try this at least. Like you said,
we're just trying to add tools to the toolbox.
Yeah.
Trying to give you some more tools. That's it. We're not trying to make you worse.
Oh man. Well, I think we touched on pretty much everything that I had written down. I did want to ask you, you mentioned that your wife now has a job with St. Thomas, assistant strength and conditioning, you said, or something along those lines? Okay. Yep. So, I grew up in a household with two coaches, but at the same time, like, they were just mom and dad to me. So I don't really understand what is it like? I mean, do you guys like compete over every single thing? Like how does that work?
I mean, we're obviously very competitive people. But we try, I think, I'm getting better at it, I think. Maybe she would disagree at times, but I'm just kidding. But it's one of those things, like when we come home, like we try and leave work at work. And I think that has been a really good thing. It's been harder this year. This is the first place we've been where we haven't worked at the same place. Like, right. So we don't know the same people. We're still trying to figure out, who the coworkers are, who, like, just people that we can hang out with, but she's obviously unbelievable at her job. I mean, she's way better than I am. Like, I take a lot of stuff from her of just body movement stuff, like how we lift at DCTC is based off, what she believes in. She's totally changed my thought process and how you warm up. Just you're being detailed. A lot of the culture stuff that we talk about has come from, my wife and, her and Jeff Jones, one of her old bosses. And, those are just like I learned so much from her on a daily basis of just like trying to figure out how can it's just really cool when we go to events at St. Thomas and like other people come up and athletes of hers come up out of the blue and just, hey, Coach B, how are you? Like, yeah. You can just tell that she built a relationship with these kids that, is unmatched. And I think then that's when people work hard and will trust you. And I mean, she's really good at connecting with people. So that's one thing I try and emulate with her, is just like, how can I be the same consistent person every single day? And, so it's fun. We compete obviously with different stuff, and we'll throw our jabs in there once in a while, but try and keep it civil.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's cool that just being, it all comes back to just being around the right people, being in the right environment. And I think, if anyone has set a good example in doing that, it's you, certainly. So, obviously, I don't want to get all sentimental, but it's been cool to see you go all these different places, and now in your new role, I can be like, yeah, that guy coached me one time, so it's cool to follow your journey. It's been a unique one, I would say, well, to say the least, really. But yeah, I just have one last question. Okay. And you can spin this however you want. So, what is your purpose?
I mean, that's the ultimate question, isn't it? Your purpose. And, for me, my purpose is I want to serve others. I think that's kind of why I love what I do. And I think the junior college level is super interesting. I mean, my purpose is to wake up every day and hopefully, be a really good husband, and someone that can provide, and, to go to work every day and, teach a couple classes and give at least kids the, everything I got. And then obviously our team is just showing them, like, I care. Like, it's about all of us. I want to see you achieve your dreams. When I look back and, I mean, you talk about watching me in my career, but it's the same for guys. Like I'll watch, I see where you're going. I see when you were still playing, like I check box scores all the time for games and teams that I used to work with, and just to watch players, see what other guys are doing. Like that's why you do it. It's the relationships. There's just so many ways. Like the purpose all comes back to I think I just love relationships. I love seeing others achieve their dreams. Well, hopefully, I'm along for that ride. If I can be a small part in someone's achievement, like awesome. Like that's all I want to do. I had so many good mentors, and my parents were both coaches also. And so growing up in the classroom, growing up on a field, I mean, I'm sure it's very similar to the experience that you had, but just seeing the impact that mom and dad had on other people, it's pretty cool. And I just hope to be a small part of that in people's journeys throughout their lives. I mean, we're in such an incredible part of their lives at 18, 19, 20 years old. Like, you just I kind of sit back every once in a while and just be like, man, like, this is pretty cool. Like, I hope I'm doing the right thing by them. So hopefully I'm doing something right.
You just have to wait and see, man. You just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I want to put a smile on people's faces. I want to see people succeed.
Well, you nailed it. That's awesome. I think that's what we're after. And I do thank you for your time. I know we picked the most hectic time of year for us to do this. Yeah. By saying we, I mean me. So I wish you nothing but the best this year. And again, thank you for your time and your mentorship over the years, staying in touch and us being able to do this. How many years down the line are we? 6 years down the line? I mean, that's pretty cool, I think. So
it's special. I mean, that's why we love what we do, man. I'm super happy for you. I mean, it seems like you're really enjoying it at Southwestern. That's awesome. Keep it going. I mean, I'm sure you're doing an awesome job down there. And if you need anything, and this podcast is super cool. Like, I mean, that's, keep riding this thing out and see where it goes. And, meeting people and doing cool conversations. I mean, we're always after seeking more information. So if you can keep bringing us great info, Blake, I think that's a really good thing.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been great, man. It's been great talking to you. I'm going to try to upload this thing tonight. So
okay.
I'll shoot it over to you when I have it done, and you can listen back and see what maybe we should have cut out. Maybe what was good.
Didn't feel bad.
Give me a little 5-star review too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
I'll get you the retweets. I get some people out there to see you.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, man. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Blake.
All right. See ya.
See ya.